see this stuff here? I'm probably not gonna let the kids go to school tomorrow.
As the clock strikes
What is
7,
that?
the vibes alive. Inner circles here, where voices thrive. Turn on your screens, let the magic unfold. Listening and healing as stories are told. Come on, come on, this is your time. No topics too tough, just heed the call. From mental health woes to justice we seek. Together we rise for the strong and the meek. A safe space for all, let's lift every voice. Inner Circle podcast where hearts unite. Sharing our truths, bringing hope to the light. Community strong, we're never alone. Together as one, we've created a home. With laughter and love, we break down the walls. No topics too tough, just heed the call from mental.
All right. Well, good evening, good evening, good evening for all of you watching so far. I want to say good evening to you. Tonight we have a guest with us. This is Inner Circle Podcast. We are here live every Tuesday and Thursday. We're here at 7 p.m. And this platform is to discuss a lot of social issues. We encourage you to go back and watch some of our previous videos that we've had. Very informative, very entertaining, very educational as well. And tonight we're here with another topic. We're going to be discussing supporting children for academic success. And I have Titus with me here tonight as a panelist. I have Melvin also here tonight. We will have a couple of others joining us shortly. But we have someone special here with us tonight. Her name is Miss Wadi. She has an experience in education, but I will leave it up to her to introduce herself. Over to you, Wadi. How are you doing today?
Oh, I am doing wonderful. Good evening, everybody. Thank you guys for having me. I'm
Good.
glad to be able to share and just empower our people.
We're glad you were able to make it and answer our call when we called you. So please, for those of us who don't know you, please tell us who you are, what you do, and why you think you're relevant to this topic.
Well, for starters, I am a mother of two. I am an educator. I am a woman of faith. And I am a huge advocate for children and education and also overall well-being. Um, I am a certified parent educator, licensed parent educator in Minnesota, and also a child expert. I have a bachelor's degree in early childhood development. So anything that has to do with child overall well-being, I'm your gal. And also, I've been working with the school systems now. I've worked with three school districts for over 10 years. So I know my babies, and that's all about me.
Right. And right now, are you in Minnesota or are you out of Minnesota?
I am currently living in North Carolina, Charlotte, North Carolina.
All right. So are you still connected with school system here in Minnesota? In a
How
way?
did you know that?
I mean, because everything you said about school system was Minnesota. You didn't say anything about North Carolina where you currently are.
Yes, I am still connected to the school districts in Minnesota, especially Brooklyn Center, where there's a huge population of us on that side. So my presence there was highly needed, and so the district has employed me to stay, with them, although I'm in North Carolina.
Gotcha. So what has really influenced you or inspired you to? I mean, you could have gone many routes as a very smart woman. You could have gone in nursing. You have gone in engineering or something else. But why education?
Wow, that's a great question. Education. One reason for that is because, believe it or not, when I was in school, I was the dumbest kid ever. I only, and I'm talking about to high school, right? I never made anything more than a C. And when I got a C, that was like on occasions. I was so excited. But the reason why I went into this field is because when we came here to the United States, my parents did not really have the opportunity to support our academic success. There were so many things I wanted to do, my siblings wanted to do, but my parents were working and they didn't have the resources to support them. And that left us really, marginalized, and we missed out on a lot of things. So as I got older, talking to the Lord, being a woman of faith, and I just asked God, what would you have me do? And that's when God told me to become an educator. And when I went to school, I got my bachelor's in early childhood, and I got my family and social ed degree in my master's in family social education, because I wanted to support the family unit. I wanted to support our community. Based on what I grew up with as well, not having, that kind of support. So, and I see it all around in all the school districts I've worked for. Immigrant families, especially West African families, we are underserved, and it's so many things. And I see that, so I try my best to be the best, advocate for us.
Absolutely. I'll let Tatos come in too. Tatos, go ahead.
You sound like you're really walking in purpose, and I got to give that to you. The fact that you experienced this thing and you have this calling, and now it seems you're really walking. So props to you, Weldy, and thank you for being here. Thank you for being available. So as you embark on this journey, what do you think was the most maybe challenging obstacle for you when you were a child? I want you to kind of take us back to maybe during your elementary days, pre-K maybe, and how do you think you're kind of addressing that now that you're in a different position and at a different side of the table
Well,
for
and
other kids?
yeah, this is my foundation. I didn't have my mom or dad growing up, right? I was raised by my grandmother for the first half of my life. And after she left, I was, kind of like living with other people. And I didn't have attachment with any parent. I didn't know how to parent. I was never parented by anyone. I pretty much just raised myself through our life. So that's something that has always been like a void in my life. And so I said, you know what, God help me heal those places in my life. So I said, I want to, it's so funny what you went through is how, God put you in that position to help other people because you understand it so well. And that's something that I did. So education is so important to me, especially from the infancy age, because that's the attachment, that's the foundation. If a child doesn't have that attachment or that foundation growing up, they pretty much, will have so many issues in life. And surprisingly, I overcame all of those obstacles, and it's just it's a miracle, to be quite honest with you, because from infancy, I mean, elementary, I could not make an A to save my life. So people always say, you are a miracle, because in college, I tell you, I was an A student in college. So that just tells you, how God transitioned people. I never made anything under a C when I was in college. The day I started college, the day I finished, I've always been an A student. So I went honor roll for the first time in my life, and I've kept on that. And now that you guys think I'm, intelligent, I'm not. It's just the grace of God. So that's my little story.
Thank you. So just a follow up. When you started, you said when you started school, you feel like you made the expression that you were not the brightest student.
Mm-mm.
What were some of the challenges? I mean, what were you processing as a child to make you feel that way? Like, what were some of those thoughts? What were some of those
Yeah.
struggles?
I mean, depression. I was processing depression. I was processing loneliness, abandonment, neglect. I was processing a lot of hate, unforgiveness, just questioning,
Mm.
my foundation. Who do I belong to? Why? Why did they leave me? Why did they didn't want me? So as a child, you're going through all of these things, and that's what a lot of our kids, we have something called adverse trauma. We have this trauma that we don't even know that we're dealing with, right? And we go to school, it affects us because at school I wasn't focused on learning. Who's going to check my report card? Who is going to take me to school, or drop me off for cheerleading practice or what have you. So I was processing a lot of things, especially depression, but I didn't know I was depressed.
Right. Well,
Thank
Melvin,
you.
before you come in, just a little question for you here too, Wadi. There must have been a time where there was a shift, right?
Hmm.
Something must have changed because no one just comes from not being so good to being good. So there must have been a shift. When did you notice that shift?
When I gave my life to the Lord, and I was 27 years old.
Okay. So,
Wow.
That's
so
when it shifted.
then something changed with your own lifestyle and everything.
Everything changed with my lifestyle. The moment I give my life to the Lord, I mean, my mind just shifted to like I needed to do better. And
Mm,
that's when I started putting things into perspective and start
mm.
prioritizing what was important. That's when I started taking, my life serious. Because at first, I mean, I was a rugged muffin. If you guys
Mm.
know what that means, I
And
mean,
that's exactly what I heard from you. Prioritizing. You
yes.
started to prioritize because
Hmm.
it's not like you were not smart. You've always been a smart person, but you just haven't. Sometimes you just did not prioritize certain things. And
Absolutely.
once you started to prioritize certain things, your smartness and your wisdom and everything became evident. Over to you,
Hmm.
Melvin.
Oh, Miss Wade, we are glad to have you here. Thank you for joining us and being open to just explain your own side of the story. I think what that does is going to help other kids that are in similar situation that find themselves in the
Hmm.
things you just named when you were coming up. So we appreciate you just being open and just sharing your story with us. Our transition from just asking you personal question, I would kind of dive into just a basic question that has to do with how can kids nowadays, maybe parents out there want to know, we have technology era, right? Wherein technology is just overtaking this generation. Is not changing, it's on an exponential level. And also
Hmm.
you encouraging kids going to school just to have the academic piece of it. How does having technology and also, you know, teaching kids in school, how does that kind of help them in a way to have them not just using technology? Because nowadays you can just get information from the tip of the button, just clicking stuff and you have what you need to have. How is that helping, or how can the educational system help to, bridge the gap, right? Uh,
Hmm. So as far as
As you answer that question, I want you to keep in mind tying it into the topic at hand. So tying that to parents controlling that aspect as well. Thank you very much.
So definitely technology can be a blessing and can be a curse, depends on how you use it, right? Um, Obviously in school, they use technology every second of the day, you know, and especially with the world that we're living in, our kids now are very tech savvy. They need it, right? Because they need to keep up with their peers as well as with the world that they are transitioning into. So the best thing that a parent can do is to, set boundaries, educate your child on the use of technology safety. Something that we do is digital citizenship, and that's a class that I teach parents on how to foster digital citizenship in the home and also outside. You have to be the gatekeeper for your child's technological usage. You can definitely set boundaries. For example, my daughter just got her first cell phone, right? I didn't just put
Before you go far, what do you mean by digital citizenship?
digital
For
citizenship
some of us who are listening.
is
Hmm.
responsibility, is being a responsible digital citizen. So you are, you have this technology, in this piece of technology in your hand, you have to be responsible for that. And being responsible for that is, digital citizenship. So if you can be responsible for this piece of technology that you have in your hand, you are practicing digital citizenship, right? So my daughter being just having her first cell phone, I did not just put it in her hand. We signed a contract. So there are things I listed in a contract that if she violates the contract, the phone will get revoked, right? So she knows that, okay, in order for me to be safe and my mom to protect me, this is what I have. These are the rules I have to abide by. Everywhere you go, you have rules. When they have computers in school, before they hand them the computers, parents, you sign that paper to say that if anything happened to this computer, you're going to be responsible for that, right? They sign contracts in school before they hand them the computers, the laptops, or whatever it is. So it's the same thing with us parents. We have to be able to give our children contract, give them the expectations so that they're not just willy-nilly just using the phone with no expectations, so.
That's a good one. And then a follow-up question to that. You mentioned digital citizenship. How can a parent who doesn't have who is not tech savvy use that? Like, what are some of the systems put in place to help those kind of parents? I know we have those parents like that. It's not they don't know, but they are not exposed to these things. Do we have something in place to help them mitigate those two as well?
Absolutely. Like I said, the first thing is you got to set the expectation. That's number one. Before you put anything in your child's hand, set the expectation. Once you do that, then you can go into the phone, go to Sprint, go to T-Mobile, and you can ask the school, or you can ask any friend of yours or whoever who knows technology, put safeguards on the phone. Like, for us, I use the phone for tracking purposes, right? So therefore, I make sure I'm putting safeguards. I mean, you can go on the internet. It will show you how to safeguard your child's phone. All you have to do is pretty much just Google it, and it will show you how to do that. So you got to safeguard your child's phone. One thing I am really big on is protecting my child's innocence. And I'm not going to open her to the world to where she doesn't understand, right? Because that's most of our problems today with our children. They are exposed to so many things in their mind. They are getting information every single day. But the information, their minds are so little to process the way we process, right? Their prefrontal cortex is not fully developed to understand or make sound decisions with the information that they're receiving. So therefore, when they have inundated information, what that does is overload their minds, and then they start making poor decisions. Henceforth, the internet. So therefore, we have to protect our children's innocence at all costs. And that means whatever you have to do with that phone, protect that at all costs. I mean, block all those internet, block I block everything, and she can only make phone calls.
How old do you think a child has to be in order? What would you say the appropriate age should be for a kid to have a phone?
Like I said before, it depends on the parents. It depends on their needs. For me, I would say I didn't want to give my child's phone, but with the world that we're living in, I would say when they are mature, one, and number two, depends on the safety concerns that you have. That's when I will put that phone in my child's hands. So for me, 8 years old is like the starting point. And the reason why I say 8 years old, I contemplated on this, but then again, I say, you know what? At 8 years old, I have more control over this phone, and I can set a lot of boundaries right now with this phone than when she's 12 and I put the phone in her hand. She's already exposed to, this technology. And when I'm saying something to her about it, she's probably going to be like, well, mom, all my friends are doing it. But at 8 years old, I still have more control over that, and I can still set ground rules for that. So I thought it was a really good way to start for us. But again, you got to set expectations.
Right. Take this time right now to say welcome to my co-host Avi and Ms. B. Welcome to the show tonight.
Hi everyone.
Hello.
Just having some serious technical difficulties, but I'm happy to be here. This is such an exciting topic.
Thank you.
Glad to have you. Amy, how's it going?
Oh, yeah. Thank you, guys. Thank you, host, my dynamic host for holding it down. Today's a special day for me, so that's why I'm running late. Just came back from out with the family. So, but it's like, hey, it's an interesting topic. Anytime you're talking about kids, it's a topic always dear to my heart. So, Miss Weddy, thank you very much for holding it down with this topic. I appreciate you for that. So, back to
Thank you.
you.
Right off the jump, do you
Birthday
guys have any
boy.
questions?
What?
Right off the
It's a
jump, do you guys
birthday
have any
boy. Happy
questions
birthday,
for me?
man.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Neighbor. Thank you, Titus. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Any,
Well, look,
any,
Miss
any other
Weddy,
time?
the what? Oh, yeah. So, Miss Weddy, right, is that we're talking about education tonight, how parents can kind of, what role parents can play. I know I just hear you guys talking about phone. Besides the phone, though, right? It's like there are a lot of things when it comes to education. It's like there are a lot of things like parents need to do. Is that besides the phone issue and like for me, like a lot of immigrant parents are so busy they have to like juggle work, juggle other stuff. What advice or what kind of maybe like pointers can you give them to try to have that balance with their kids because education here is very important.
Well, that's a broader, spectrum of things that parents can do based, like I said, based on the goals of the parents. And when we talk about education, that's one thing I always hear from every family that is from a foreign country. When you ask them, what's the goal of what goals do you have for your children? And they always say, I want my child to, excel in the academics. And I'm like, how does that look like, for you? What does that look like? Right? Because it's one thing to say it and the next thing to follow through, right? So we can have dreams, but dreams without plans is just a wish, right? So we have to be able to first of all be intentional about what we say and follow through with what we say, because a lot of people say they want to do the academics thing because that's what is important. That's what we were taught, as for me from Africa, that's what we were taught. Like, you've got to, do this, go to school, go to school, go to school. But there are so many things that plays into that. So to keep a balance, I don't tell parents I don't give them a lot of information unless I know they're going to follow through with it, because I can keep giving you something and then you're not using the information, right? Time is
Yeah.
valuable. So what I would say is be intentional. It's super easy for your child to excel in America, super duper easy. And the first thing you need to do as a parent is first structure your home. Now that we are talking about back to school, academic success, it
Yeah.
starts with a good, first of all, it starts with a good foundation at home. What does the home structure look like? If mom and dad is always working, and nowadays I see it's not about the work. What I do see is a lot of parents, they are on social media a lot. That's what I see. They're not focusing on the well-being of the child or academic success. I hear that, oh, the lesson is too hard. Children don't even have homework nowadays, right? You can communicate with the school. You can follow through on, the parent view. You can
Yeah.
see what your kids are learning. You can go to, they have the curriculum on the website. You can, when you go to conferences or open house, these are things that you need to be asking. What curriculums are you guys going to be teaching this year? Where can I access this curriculum? It only takes 30 minutes a day to spend time with your child. And to be quite honest with you, your child doesn't even need you to teach them how to do their homework, because they're learning that stuff at school. What that
Okay.
child needs from you is that 30 minutes you can sit close to them and just hug them and just,
Sure.
talk to them, because that's what's feeding their minds. That's what feeding their souls. So when they
Sure.
wake up in the morning and go to school, they are willing and ready to learn. That's the first thing I would say.
Mhm.
Um, man, if I can just come in,
Go ahead.
uh, it's a lot, right? So, you talk about what are the goals for your children, and I think is, are we having the conversation with the children to see what are their goals, right?
Mhm.
Because
Hmm.
our kids are learning more off of social media. I know the parents are on social media too, but everybody's taking what they want to take away from social media.
Mhm.
I mean, my guilty pleasure is playing Candy Crush, to be honest, right? But I feel like I'm educated enough, so it's not about me. But however, I noticed that our kids engage in video games. And
Mhm.
at first you're like, no, no, no video games. But kids are getting rich off of video games.
Oh,
College athletes are making more money playing video games than they are at school playing on the field or whatever. So it's really asking the kids, like, what do you want to do? What do you like to do? Right. I know even back in the day would be like, what do you want to be when you grow up? I don't even think it's necessarily what you want to be. It's like, what drives you? What are you passionate about? What do you like? Are you a physical person? Are you an artist type person? Like, are you into the arts as far as drawing and music and acting and theater, right? And I feel like cultural norms, African parent, the key things they want to hear is lawyer, doctor. The child wants to be a lawyer, they want to be a doctor, or they want to be a teacher or something like that, right? But it's really finding out what does that child like to do. And honestly, they said by age 7, the brain is already set. It's already mature enough to be able to make such a decision, right? And I'm not the best on all the information about development or whatever. So I think it's critical for us to start seeing what are the things that they like. Like my daughter, she plays Roblox, but she has such great architectural creativity in that game. Designing those homes and building those homes, I'm like, wow, how is it that you're able to utilize, because you're not going to draw like back in the day to be an architect. Honestly, it's about the software, figuring out what the best software is, and graphics, and recognizing that she's great with the computer, right? So sometimes we're like, let's take these gadgets away from them. Let's get into the books, but it's really paying attention to, she can play the violin, right? However, she wants to not do orchestra anymore because it's not the cool thing, right? And so it's like I'm taking in all these things to really figure out with her, like, what is the plan for you? What do you want to do? What are you passionate about going to school? We've tried every sport, and it's not, I'm forcing you to stick to a sport. Volleyball, cheerleading, track, right? I want her to find what that thing is that they're most passionate about. And I think that's that daily conversation, because their appetite changes all the time from year to year. Sometimes month to month, they'll start a sport and they don't want to do it anymore. So it's really asking them, what do they like to do? What are their creative juices?
So, Miss Wedded, what's your take on that? Is like, is it like we African parents, right? Sometimes that there's that hesitation, right, to empower our kids. I think that's what she's driving at. What's your take on that as an educator? Like,
tying your ego to the goal of the kid.
yeah, exactly.
Right,
Where's your take?
exactly.
Right.
That's a very good one. What I would say to that is, when you're teaching children, it's like a balanced diet. You need your carbs, you need your protein, and you need your what's the other one? Carbs, protein, and fats, right? And so that's how it is when you teaching child. The child brain is empty, and it needs to be filled with so many things. I know you said that children develop at 7. No, their processing systems don't kick in. The prefrontal cortex of a child don't kick into now. Research is showing that until they are 26 years old. That's when the prefrontal cortex is actually fully developed to make sound decisions. And we can see when our kids go to college, some of us, when our children go to college, they go to college for one thing. And when they leave college, they don't want to do that thing anymore, because it was influenced by the parents' choice, or, it was influenced by, peers or environmental, choices or whatever. So we have to be open and honest with you. Like she said, when you see your child, what I do is I observe my kids. When I see that my kids are doing something really well, like if they're artistic, I can tell, because all of a sudden this child wants to draw. This child like abstract things, and they just know. But for me, I'm an educator, so I know how to point those things out in my children, right? Okay. And this is what being a parent, you have to observe your child. There are different learning styles. Mm-hmm. Based on your child's learning styles, you can be able to distinguish, like, okay, this child would like more of this. And then you feed them the things that they like more, right? Versus my daughter, she likes Roblox, but she really doesn't like to play on her phone a lot. Surprisingly, for an 8-year-old, this girl is not a she doesn't like the phone that much, right? And I'm happy for that because I created that structure with her to where I said, your mind needs a balanced diet. You can
Mhm.
have technology for an hour, but you need a book for another hour, and you need socialization for another hour because all of these things makes up the fullness of your brain. This is your full diet for your brain to develop the way it should develop. I'm not going to have you eating technology for 5 hours because that's what you love to do. I'm not going to have you do that. I'm not
Sure.
going to have you reading a book for five
Yeah.
hours, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
What?
Melvin,
So,
Melvin, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Go ahead.
Can you hear her?
Since Ms. Wade, thank you. The question I have here has to do with encouraging kids to read and just learn for a parent who doesn't know what to do, right? Want to learn from you tonight. What are some of those traits or some of those things we can do to encourage them at an early age to start reading? Because information is important and we get that information from reading. So what are those traits you think you can apply to a child coming up to encourage them to do more reading and active learning?
That's a very good question. So reading starts at an early age, from infancy until like they get older. If you a parent never open a book and a child never saw you open a book, they're not going to read. It would be by chance if they choose to read. So what I would say, and I know we were not previewed or we were not privileged to have books around in our homes. That's not something that our parents said, go read, but we never saw them reading, right? Some of us.
let's provide some clarity here. Are you saying that? Are you saying that if a parent of if a child never saw their parents reading, they
Mhm.
will not read?
They will not read. That's why I say by choice. If they choose to do it, that means the school has helped and worked with your child to develop that skill because that's a skill that has to be learned, that has to be taught. They don't just pick up a book and start reading. I mean, some autistic kids, if they have special needs,
Well, what about some kids who are just self-determined?
that's what I'm saying, by choice. And that's a small percentage of people. But we're talking about like teaching your child how to read. Like, it has to start with the environment. And I get this question asked a lot. Like, my child doesn't read. And that's one thing when we do early childhood screenings, a lot of kids don't know how to read. They can say the alphabet, they can say the one, two, threes, they are intelligent, but when it comes to reading, decoding words, they don't know how to do that. And that is because one, the parents are not reading at home. And number two, there are no like letters around for them to really recognize the words and stuff. One thing I would say a strategy I would
Mm.
say you could do if you never read, your children never saw you reading, and you want to instill reading into them, I would say take them to the library, keep books around the house, magazines, good magazines around the house. Just keep like literature rich resources around the house.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
your child can just start to
So,
pick up things and start like you can play games with them like puzzles, or you can play games are one of the greatest way that children can learn to read too. Reading questions on the cards, they can start to practice words and love it. So you can play games through reading. It don't have to be hectic. Another thing, YouTube has a lot of books. You don't have to read, but both of you can sit there and the book is being read to you.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
How
Good
early?
point,
How
Jorge. One thing,
early can they start reading? How early can
children
they
can
start reading?
Children starts reading as early as 4 years old if you instill that in them.
yeah. So here's one thing though I like to say, right? I think one of the thing about we African parents, okay,
Mhm.
it's like, and especially like I would like to go with Liberians, right? I think one of our challenges, right? I think like reading is very important for me. I prior reading because a good reader is a good writer. Okay, it's
Absolutely.
like a good reader is a good writer because some of the things you pick up from reading, you put up in your writing. The reason why
excellent.
most Liberians do not, I think most Liberians do not put pen to paper because we don't really like to read. You know what I mean? We don't like to pick up the book or maybe an article. Like I like to read, right? But these days with technology, I won't. I will admit I won't pick a book to read, but I read every article. I read the Wall Street Journal. I mean, I read everything, right? But it's on my phone these days. Well, I mean, with technology. So to your point is that if a kid doesn't see you maybe picking a book, they might not pick it up, right? It's like it's different now, right? But I think I agree with you though. I think reading is very, very important because a good reader is a good writer.
Yes.
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
Sister Wendy,
Let me
would you
chime
like
in
to,
with what
would
you
you like
just
to
said.
address?
I will say,
Babe.
oh, go ahead.
Okay,
Miss B,
Tatos,
you
go
want
ahead.
to go?
No, I was gonna say it's unfortunate. No matter how much you read to them, if they don't have a passion for reading, don't give up on them. It doesn't mean they're not a smart kid,
Right.
right? I love to read. I read uh my mom, the favorite book she used to read me was nursery rhymes, The Three Little Pigs, Mother Goose, and all those things. So much so that I have a great photographic memory. Not that I recognize the words, but I memorized the words according to the picture. And of course, she busted me out. So in kindergarten, they wanted to move me to first grade because I could read. And so my mom was like, "This child cannot read. Trust me." So she like would point exactly to the word. Denise, what is that word? And I didn't know the word, but I memorized the book. So based on the picture, I knew what words went on that page. And so that's how I was doing that, right? But I really did enjoy reading because she read to me from the time I was little. And so I implemented the same thing. My daughter only reads when she has to, unfortunate, And so I just want to say to parents out there, reading is the foundation. It's very important. I think if you can read, it'll help you excel in all the other um, subjects that much better. However, if you don't have a child that loves to read, like me, my summer vacations were spent reading novels, even before I was at the level to read them. Don't give up on your child. I just want to put that part in there. Like they're still a smart kid. And they just probably don't enjoy picking up a book. But I think when you do it from an early age, like she's saying, my cousin started teaching her son to read from maybe 5, 6, 7 months. And by the time he got to kindergarten and took the test, he was skipped 2 grades ahead. So she did very well with him at home. I see a lot more of our kids excelling from homeschooling too. So that's an option you can very well make if you want to choose to decide to homeschool your kids yourself, if you like and enjoy, doing that. Um, they have the curriculum you can follow, and they can still be connected to a school, right, where they can have that sports and extracurricular activity. More and more kids of color are being successful in academically from being homeschooled. So I want us to look into that too as
I
as
wonder
a
why is that?
viable option to educating your kids. I know there's a lady that she only homeschools her kids for 4 hours a day, but they're very well traveled. Like for them, her education is outside there in the world, taking them to different places, taking them art, outside to the park, letting them see the actual leaves and rocks and seeing the waters and teaching them about currents and all those different things outside of the four walls. Let's be open, like, because Miss Walde talked about the different learning styles. Some people are more visual, some people are analytical. I like to see
Yeah.
things. Like if I have to do something, I want to see it all around. You go in my office, you'll see the big posted sheets all over and stuff like that. I'm that type of a learner or whatever. So really
Visual.
understanding what is the style and what is the environment, right? When I talk about the environment, is it that classroom setting? Is that home setting? Is it that outside setting for kids for them to be able to learn?
Right. I appreciate that, Sister Denise. Tatos, you want to come in? You had
Yeah.
some.
So while we're still on reading, and I think Ms. B, you just point out something very significant about the different styles of learning. But I wanted Ms. Welly to kind of touch on the reading since Abe talked about Liberians. Like he called that my beloved country, right?
Yeah.
Do you think we provide the environment? In fact, does Liberia even have a library? Do you think we provide the environment for to promote and encourage reading? And also, do you think reading is also a symptom or a red flag that other parents should look up for as far as developmental challenges? Maybe you could even add some other red flags or symptoms that parents could look for,
And
and
I think
what
when you
age
that
group
that
can
that question
look
that
look.
Tatos asking, it can also tie into the one that's on the screen here too. So if you can also address that, that'd be great.
I know we said, our African parents, African homes don't provide the resources or the environment to do it. One thing we must understand, working with families of diverse African backgrounds, some of them don't know how to read. And it's embarrassing when they're trying to read to their children and don't know how to pronounce the words. And their kids would say, that's not how you pronounce the words. Like for example, and I would address all of this question. I had a friend, she was trying to read to her daughter all the time, but every time she would pronounce the words differently. And when the girl goes to school, she pronounced the words like her mother pronounced the word, and the teacher would, correct her. So then when she got home, she would say, Mom, I don't want you to read to me no more, right? That was embarrassing for the mother. And she shared that with me. So sometimes it's like parents are trying to do it, because I've seen some parents who have tried to do it, but they just are embarrassed that their kids are going to correct them. That's one. Number two, if you have never been read to as a native of Africa, it's not something that you're going to pick up and start doing to your child, right? I started reading to my child when she was in both of my kids were in my tummy. I started reading to them, right? So when my kids came out, they were singing nursery rhymes, because I started that process at an early age when they were in. We say in research I've shown that when you read to a child in the tummy, the child hears the sounds of your voice and what you're reading. And when they come out, they want to continue that, behavior, because that's something you started. So that's how kids start picking up words. And reading is important for language development. That is one most important overall development of children. They need language development. If you are not reading, you don't necessarily have to read a book, but constantly talking to a child, not just looking, you got to look at them face to face and talk to them. So when you do that, a child pick up the words that you are saying, and that's how they become better readers. But if you are not talking to them on the level that, on their level, they're not going to pick up those words, right? So how can parents create a home environment that encourages academic success? I mean, there's so many things that you can do. First of all, you got to prioritize that academic success. That's number one. You got to be intentional. Number two, one thing that I pride myself in with my children, we have family meetings. Every Sunday, we will have family meetings, and we would talk about the expectations of each person in this family, right? And that's how I structure my home. We had a code of ethics. We don't do this and this and this, and everybody knew their role because we are a team. And that's one way you structure the home for academic success. The other way is I create routine charts. My kids have routine charts to where each person knew what they were supposed to do when they wake up in the morning. And they knew that right now, my daughter, she's reading her book. I didn't tell her to read her book, but she knows before she goes to bed, that's the thing she has to do. That started on early, right? So that's how you structure the home for academic success. You got to have a space for homework time. You got to feed them right. Don't give your child, nutrition is so important. Sleep is important. Those things that we don't think about. I've seen a lot of African kids. Let me tell y'all, lots of them in the schools. They are tired, sleepy, puffed eyes. You know why? While the parents are working late at night, the kids are playing video games and on their phones. They're supposed to be getting 12 hours of sleep. They're only getting 5 hours of sleep. They have to wake up in the morning to go to school. And then when you see them in school, they have behavior issues. Why? Because they didn't get sleep. They didn't get enough nutrition, and they're tired. Their brain is not even active to learn. So these are ways that you can structure the home. Routine charts are super duper important. It teaches them independence, especially for us. We like to do everything for our kids, but no, you want to foster independence.
So yeah, I mean, just one thing. Let me just come in quick, right, to the reading part about you reading to your kids at home, right? Even the educated ones. Look, I've been here for the longest, right? But I have still maintained my accent. Even you know what I mean. You pronounce the words to your kids, right? They say, "Oh, daddy, that's not right." I said, "What you do have a word?" You know what I mean? So
Is that by choice?
I'm just trying to get that out there, though.
Maybe Bettina asked them by choice.
Yeah.
You maintain that accent by choice?
But yeah, I did maintain it.
No, I don't think it's choice.
No,
Because I
for
tell
me,
you
I
no
think
lie.
for me,
My
no, I
uncle-
think I maintain my actress by choice though, because hey,
I don't
if
think
I
it's by
wanted
choice.
to-
You just
if I
can't
wanted
get
to-
rid of it sometimes.
Huh?
You just can't get rid of it time because I tell you
Nah,
no lie.
no, you can get rid
My
of it.
uncle,
if you
professor
stay in
at
a
a
very-
university, that
Yeah.
man Kolokwa is so thick. Like I said, brilliant scholar. And the English language it's a tough one. Just because you know how to read does not mean you know how to speak.
No.
That's why you got to take speech,
Yeah.
honestly. and because you don't know how to speak, it does not mean you are illiterate either. So we have to be mindful and give people grace. I mean, he's like one of the most world-renowned scholars. Teaches at a university out in the East Coast there. That man he can be choppy his bishop. I'm like, how you grading papers and correcting for grammar? So you can actually literally be able to read and correct the English better than you can actually speak it. That's a real thing.
No, but one thing we should consider quick though, Chairman. One thing we should consider quick, right? Is like sometimes we try to make like the English language, right, just maybe specific to America, right? It's like when a British man or Australian man have an accent, no one has a problem with it. But
I know, right?
We apprehend some accents, right? It's like, hey, it's like
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with it. So it's like, you know, but
Having
anyway,
an accent doesn't mean you can speak
It's
English.
also different from being able to pronounce. Like
Thank you.
most times, like
Enunciate, yeah.
don't pronounce the words.
Yeah.
Not pronounce the word.
but that's how we grew up learning, though. That's how we grew up learning. That's how we grew up learning, though.
But we
But
grew
that's-
up pronouncing things wrong.
Like, how do you guys say advertisement? Advertisement.
Advertisement.
Advertisement is the correct pronunciation, though.
Like you
Well,
said,
we study-
Well, we
That's
say
what I'm saying,
advertisement.
We
That's what-
study standard
Yeah,
English in
Yeah,
Liberia.
most of us grew up pronouncing things differently, right?
Yeah.
And so if you came here at age 18 or 19, right?
You know you cut short.
You already solid in your pronunciation from Liberia, man.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, over the past
No, but
40
actually, when it comes to
fucking
that,
So
Liberians
then
have
you
been
come to
pronouncing
tell
it
the kids to
correctly.
start reading to them and pronouncing certain things to them.
Liberians
The
that
whole
say
time- the whole time you
advertisement,
read
they're
to them-
saying it correctly.
They're focused on how you pronounce it. They're not focused on what you really know.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's what I'm saying. The kids are focused on. So whether that's my point, right? I mean, to your point earlier, the kids are focused on you. As my kids, the fools do it. So now when I pronounce words to them, Daddy, that's not right. What the hell is that? That's not right. I'm not. I'm a college graduate, and you telling me what I'm pronouncing to you is not right.
This is how they are learning. This is how they are learning in school. Remember now, they're not going to talk like us, right?
Yeah.
They're going to talk like the way they talk in America. Like my daughter, kids talk like we talk African, and then we talk out. You know, like when we know how to switch it up. Surprisingly, they didn't know how to do that so well. But
You
anyway,
bilingual.
On the-
yeah,
Yeah. And some of us are not bilingual. Some of us-
we multilingual, right? But it's important also. It's important. I always teach parents like it's important to keep your culture tongue as well, because that's how you relate to each other, right? My daughter and we love talking our African thing when we're ready. Oh my gosh, especially when it's time to gossip about teachers and people in the store, we talk our African language. And I
That's
mean,
true.
it's so enriching. So I tell people, keep your tongue, your native tongue, because that's where you're from. That's your foundation. Don't lose that. But on the other hand, this is why when I told my friend at the time when she told me that lady, I told her, instead of you reading to her, both of you sit down and watch the book on YouTube. Let the book read it to her, and then you look at her. It's also a fun way as well to bond with each other. Then you can say, oh, like for example, the word balloon. You know, for example, we'll say balloon, right? But if the
No, we don't say that like that. You alone can say that.
No. British
Let me call
says
one word, right?
balloon.
Damn, you been that.
Let me call one word, right? It's like
Okay.
the cartoon that we can carry, right? Yeah, it's the curtain. I mean curtain or whatever it is, right? They call it cartoon, bro. They call it cartoon. They call it. Here it's like that is something to me between you and myself up to this day. When people are pronouncing that word, I say, "What the hell do you mean?"
Let's
Yeah.
let's
So
put
you're
this
saying,
something you said. I don't.
cartoon, and you say
Correcting
cartoon.
everything.
You're
Something you
forgetting
said.
the
I don't
R.
understand.
You're forgetting
Go ahead.
the R. So
Let me
it's
share this joke, right?
cartoon,
Let me share this
and you
joke.
say cartoon.
That's
That's
how
we used to ask.
Cartoon.
in 2009, when I came to the U.S., I was in Chicago, right? With a bunch of kids who've been here for a very long time. So one asked me, "How do you?" Now I saw the squirrel in the tree, right? And I said,
Oh,
"Yeah, I
gosh.
saw the squirrel." She said, "What? The what?" I said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Squirrel." Squirrel. She said, "What do you call this squirrel?" The squirrel. I said, "We call it squirrel."
That's
I
a word
threw down,
that
bro.
people don't know how to say
I mean, I
squirrel.
can pronounce it
Yeah,
now,
go-
you know, the squirrel. But before, man, I said
Yeah, I
squirrel.
go drink water with okra for that
You
one.
see, learning your vowels
Man,
is
it's
very
laughing me, man.
important. A, E,
So,
I,
so,
O, U, like the you gotta
Yes,
learn your
please.
vowels. See,
Yeah, you got
That's
it.
another
Maybe,
one.
yeah.
something,
Maybe go ahead.
something I don't want us losing track on that Miss
Yeah.
Wedding mentioned, and I
Sure.
think it's important that we kind of capture that here tonight.
Yeah.
She mentioned sometimes parents are working and kids really don't manage the time well. So, as a parent listening here tonight, what are things they can do to effectively manage their kids' time?
Oh, that's
I
a
think check
great
up on
one.
them.
That's a great one. To manage your child's time, you have to definitely, like I said, structure. You got to put things, organization is so important as a parent, right? Pencil.
I know that's how I laugh.
No, I don't want to lose track, but I have one now.
Go
When I
ahead, Weldon.
first came here, I used to say, "Hey, Papa Tima, hey, Papa."
Oh wow.
I used to say, "Hey, Papa Tima," and then like courtesy, I used to say, I used to call it something, and I told my daughter one time, she laughed at me so badly. But we share these jokes now with each other, and I said, "Oh, go give me that hippopotamus," and then she says it, and she just loves to say that. But now it's hippopotamus. I can say that right.
Hippopotamus.
To
Man,
your
Murphy,
point,
get out of here.
you have to organization is so important because, like I stated earlier, the prefrontal cortex of a child brain is still developing. So you as a parent, you are coming in to help them with that portion of their brain. That's what organization comes in, proper decision making. So what you have to do is you got to tell them what you got to list. Like, I write things down. This is what I want you to do. Once again, those routine charts, right? You write down those things and tell your kids what you expect them to do, what you want them to do. What we have done as parents, we don't lay down expectations, but we expect the kids to automatically perform the duty, the task. Right? That's something that many people grew up, and then we start yelling at the children when they don't perform the task. But you didn't lay down expectations. You didn't explain to me. You didn't give me understanding. A lot of children have ADHD. A lot of children have dyslexia. A lot of children have a high functioning processing system. A lot of children have executive functioning disorder. So we have a lot of kids, especially in America, who have a lot of mental issues, right? Mental challenges. And you have to understand your child to say, okay, my child doesn't read that well. My child doesn't understand that way. So understanding the processing system of your child, and you cannot go wrong with laying down the rules, like writing down what you want them to do. For example, when I'm leaving to go to work and my child is at home, I wrote down everything I want you to do. So when I come back, you cannot give me an excuse to say, oh, I didn't do this, or I didn't know what to do. You had it on the paper. You could, you can read that. So that's one way we can help them with organization.
So why if, I think we talked about single parenting here a while ago, on this platform. A lot of single parents in our community, how can they kind of follow that organizational structure? And what if, to your point, right, I leave notes with my kids and I come, it's not done. What should I do?
It's consistency. They're not going to get it the first day, the second day, the third day, the fourth day, the fifth day. Sometimes it takes months. And then they finally, again, remember I talk about the challenges they're having, especially for children with ADHD. You wouldn't know your child have ADHD unless you go to a doctor and they're diagnosed. I want to say, if I could guess, I want to say about 65% of our children have ADHD. Why? If I could guess, I would say 65%. The reason for that number is because we don't have organization in the home. ADHD stems from not having an organized environment. Remember, the prefrontal cortex is the one that is developing. That is your decision. That's your executive system of the brain. That's what tells you how to respond to things. It tells you how to make decisions. We as adults, ours is some adults don't even have theirs developed yet, but children don't have theirs developed. So if you are, I'm dead serious. If you, because that decision process is just poor. But if you are, for example, you are saying to your child, we don't eat in the living room, we eat on the dining room table, right? Consistently telling them that they know that I'm supposed to sit on the dining room table and eat. That's organization number one. Number two, when I finish eating, I got to put my bowl in the kitchen sink and wash it. That's organization right there, right? So you got to be able to help them with these little things. And again, routine charts. You have to lay down that routine, because now when they do it over and over and over, it becomes second nature to them. They know what to do without you telling them.
I think describing adequate parenting that we just discussed. Maybe
Exactly. I mean,
So with
and honestly,
attention,
Remember, this is part 2 of adequate
she
parenting.
gave, if you're a single parent, she gave you some jewels. So I hope you were listening.
So
She
when
really
you-
gave you some jewels that can help you to be able to still parent your child, even if you work in that double shift, right? Because if you have created a routine system and you're writing things down, and those kids are trained to come home, open that door, pay attention to that note that mom has left, follow that routine, then you don't have to worry about the fact that you're not there to keep that disciplinary, steps happening, right? And I would say, a bedtime is so important. I find so many people, you visit them and their 5-year-old is still up at midnight. Oh, what am I going to do? They don't want to sleep. No, you have not instilled a bedtime and stuck to it. Like she said, consistency. I hope you guys were listening. She said consistency. And even if they might not do it right away, even like she talked about adults, if you do something consistently for 21 days, I think the brain now starts automatically to help me here. What if it starts to automatically follow along with that routine now, right? So you have to push. The first night they won't want to stick to that bedtime. The second night, but if you're consistently telling them, say your bedtime is at 8 p.m. and stick to it. I don't care if you're in the room, the lights are off. You decide not to close your eyes. That's your business. And over time, they're really going to follow, because I'll tell you what, I was in this country from a little age, and it was just me. My parents came. The rest of my siblings were still back home. I was literally like, my mom said she would go to work. My dad would go to work in the morning. And we had a way for her to call to wake me up 2 times and hang up and then call back. That was my wake up call, first of all. Clothes laid out, had the house keys, and I would literally know to put my clothes on, lock that door, put the key back under the mat, take myself to the bus stop. And I don't even want to tell you how young this was, because years later I was saying,
wanted to ask, at what age?
you guys were
Don't do
neglecting
that,
me.
because you can still have child protection count someone woman and please.
But it's because we had a routine. She is so right? We had a routine, and I knew what that routine was, and I got used to it, and I did it. I'm not gonna trust that in this 2024 that you leave your 5-year-old at home to do this on their own. But yeah, knew the look at the time. I don't know if I was really knowing how to tell time, but I just knew the clock needed to say a certain couple digits, and I knew to leave the house and go catch the bus. So if you're a single parent, she really dropped some jewels, and I hope you were listening about just creating a routine, having that organization, having a system in place will really help with your parenting and disciplining with your kids.
Okay.
And number 2, it's like the routine don't have to be 20 things or 20 items. Another thing parents do is they do the routine without the kids. No, this is where family meetings are important. I mentioned family meetings. This is where during the week on Sundays I caught off everything is me and my children planning time for the week ahead, right? Because you have to prioritize those things. So Sunday we sit down together. What does the week look like, for us? My daughter knows, like, she has to be to drama club on Wednesday. So she got that on her calendar. So we sit down and we map out our calendar and we talk about what we're going to do during the week, right? And another thing too, when you are starting off a routine chart, you can start with a bedtime routine. What do? I start, first of all, brushing my teeth, reading a book. A parent asked me before, how do I get my child to go to bed? They don't want to go to bed. That's another problem. Parents, they don't know how to put their kids to bed. What are the routines are you using? You need a bedtime routine. And that can come from 5 things. Before we watching TV, I shut off the TV and not transition. We got to use transition. So if you have children in elementary school, below elementary, middle school children, you can do transitions with them, but you can let them know like, hey, honey, we're about to go to bed, right? So you can do transitions. I put down the slow music that lets her know that it's time to transition to bedtime. I don't just turn off the TV and say, turn off that TV, it's time to go to bed. No.
All right. So,
Gotta help them.
Wendy, please address this. I really think this is a question, even though it doesn't appear to be. But then I will move to open the phone lines, folks. If you're watching, I'll move to open the phone lines because we have about 10 more minutes here. I'll open the phone lines for you to please try to call. Avi, do we have that phone ready?
Yeah, we do.
All right. So Wendy, as you address this concern here, I will move to open the phone lines. And folks, if you're watching, please go ahead and just call this number, and we'll bring you on live. Not your face, but your voice will be live here. So you can participate and ask your questions. Thank you.
So with her question, this person asked the question, what if they're still doing something after you told them not to do it? There's something called consequences. Don't take that away from your children. They need consequences. So if you continuously eat and live, you're not the adult. I am the adult, right? If you are constantly eating in my living room after I told you not to eat in my living room, this is not, I'm going to tell you, honey, don't eat in the living room. No. Don't eat in my living room. There are consequences.
Not your friend either.
And I'm not your friend either at this point because it's disrespectful. I'm telling, and I always say to my daughter, you are disrespecting me right now. You are crossing the boundary, and I don't like what you're doing to me. It's hurting me right now. Because then she understands how her actions, I'm teaching her also because she's going to be a young woman someday. She's going to be married. She's going to learn how to set boundaries. That's how you set boundaries. But I see a lot of parents, they talk to their kids. The kids are still doing, that's disrespectful. We're not going to do that. There will be consequences for your action, whatever you deem is right. Sometimes some children just need to be reminded. And that means using stern voice to tell them what it is that you need them to do. But don't take it lightly.
One thing I was going to talk about, right? You talk about family meetings and stuff, guys. Does that have to do with engagement? Because sometimes, right, a lot of parents don't are not engaged with their kids, right? Like having formal conversations, sitting down, hey, what's going on with you? How can we work together? Or what am I doing wrong? Or what is that I know we talked about adequate parenting the last time, right? On Tuesday. I think is that where parents really need to be engaged, right? To support their kids, whether in academics or whatever.
So I wish we had enough time for minutes, and I'm going to run through this real quick and say this, right? There are stages of parenting. There is the first stage, which is the foundational stage, the second stage, which is the disciplinary stage, the third stage, which is the guiding and the coaching, and it goes on and on, right? So these stages of parenting, the foundation is from birth to 5 years old. That's the foundational stage where you are nurturing the child emotionally, mentally, and physically. That's birth to 5. Right? All you're doing is teaching them love to build that foundation, trust and respect, right? Responding to their needs, mentally, emotionally, whatever. That's foundation. Okay. The second stage is the discipline stage, which is from 5 years old until 12 years old. That stage, those stages right there is discipline. Discipline doesn't mean I'm spanking you or yelling at you. Discipline means I'm teaching you what to do. I'm teaching you how to govern yourself, how the world works. That's discipline. I'm teaching you that. So those from 5 to 12 years old is pivotal. So you need to be hands-on. What a lot of parents do. And then after 12 years old is guiding. I'm watching to see you repeat what I have taught you. So then you make mistakes or error, I'm there to guide you to do it the right way. So what a lot of parents do is they forget the foundation. They start the foundation when the kid is 12 years old. It's too late. So this is why a lot of kids, when their parents are trying to relate to them, they don't want to because the foundation was never built, right? Yeah. Or when they reach into, let's say, for example, in the discipline stage, they start to build foundation when the child is 6, 7, 8 years old. It's too late. The child has already grown to know themselves, right? So this is why it's important. You got to know, and when we do parenting workshops, we should teach a parenting workshop. We always talk about that. Know the stage you are in as a parent and know what is required in that stage so that you are not, because teenagers, they don't need you to be loving on them, or they don't need you to be telling them what to do. You should have done that when they were 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. They need to make mistakes, try and error, and you just tell them what to do. Unfortunately, we didn't know that. So now we are teaching teenagers, or we are teaching our 8 years old. We try to love them, and they're already grown. So if you are not bonding with them, you definitely going to have some challenges there. But you could try.
So, yeah, we have a call on the line, one of our regular panelists, but today I think she had an engagement. So, hey, Dream, you are live.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, Dream.
But before my question, I just want to say something about setting structure, like Wealthy said. So children watch and learn from their parents. So if you're setting structure as a parent, you have to be an example to your child or children. You have to, live or set yourself in a way where you're not just being unfair. Like, the African people can say, do what I say, but don't do what I do. So we have to, get into the mentality of letting our children not just do what we say, but also be able to learn from us and get good things that will impact their academic and also their other aspects of their life. And my question is, how can parents identify when their child needs academic support versus encouraging independence?
Okay, thank you.
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
So Wendy, for the sake of time, as you address that question, and after you do that, please just do your closing. Keeping in mind what you want to leave for parents, like, and after you go around and thank you. Go ahead.
So how can parents identify if their children needs help versus I think she said discipline? What you can do is, number one, when they go to school, you know that their behavior, there's a certain way a kid's supposed to behave per their age. And you see your child is not following through with that developmentally. And this is why we do screenings on the school that do testings and assessments. Those things are good to see where your child is developmentally, because that's how we know if the child is performing up to the standard or if they're delayed. A lot of children, unfortunately, they are cognitively smart, but emotionally and physically, mentally stunted. So therefore, this is what we call developmental delay. Then we do a referral to where we start providing those support, those strategies that we can give you at home or at school for them to support that they have. Now, when, like I said, the one thing that we noticed with is ADHD versus executive functioning disorder. ADHD, a lot of children will not function right when they have ADHD. They're super hyper. They don't follow instructions. They don't pay attention. They're all over the place. That's another way for you got to repeat things 50 times to them. That's another way you can tell, like, okay, something is wrong if I'm still repeating stuff to them. But then you look at your friend child who is the same age is listening, following instruction. That's a normal behavior for a child. That doesn't mean your child is different because your child has ADHD. There are two types of brain, neurotypical and neurodivergent. Your child is just a divergent child, which is amazing too. You can find the strengths of those things and then you feed onto it. Because I have a neurodivergent brain and I love it. I have ADHD and I manage it so well, and it has helped me along my way. I got great strengths based on that. But that doesn't mean it's a curse.
Love it.
Yeah, we have another caller. Quick, we have another caller. Just a minute again. Hello, you're live. Go ahead.
Okay, my name is Leroy Pope, and I called today to say I am grateful to the lady, one of the panelists, who's providing us these very basic information. We appreciate what we heard from you tonight, and we would do like to have you back on this platform, because those things you're providing are just step-by-steps in helping us as parents achieve and reach our goals. So I want to say thank you for the impact you've made tonight. And you have given enough of information that can help, and we would love to have you back anytime soon. That was just the reason for why I called today.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Leroy.
Okay, go ahead, Chairman.
Letty, thank you so much for answering that question that Dream posted to you. Now, as you close, in your closing, what will you want to share with parents? What do you want to leave us with tonight?
There's not one size fit all when it comes to parenting. All children are different. There is no thing as a perfect parent. All there is a parent who try. Always ask yourself, am I doing my best? Am I giving it my best, right? Because I always say to parents is that whatever you do to your child today is what they're going to do to you tomorrow. I saw a video one time where a guy, he never spent time with his son. He was always busy on the phone. When he got older, those friends were not there anymore, and he really wanted his son attention. And his son kept saying, "Daddy, I don't have time. I don't have time." That hit home for me, right? So we want to, what you give your child today, for example, emotionally, mentally, physically, is what your child is going to give you tomorrow. I don't care what you do. If it's not in them, I don't care what you do. Don't expect it from them. So as a parent in America, don't say these American children, they are your children. Whatever culture you set in your home is what that child is going to respect and abide by. Set structure, give them responsibility, routine. Don't take that away from them. Remember, they're going to be somebody's husband. They're going to be somebody's wife. They're going to be somebody's mother. They're going to be somebody's father. So you want to think about those things when you're raising your children. And this is why I do what I do.
So just real quick, I know Chairman said that was a closing, right? But this is very interesting, right? Real quick, right? I mean, the academic year have just started, right? In a lot of, almost all over this country. In Minnesota, it's just like, the last 2 weeks. It's like we all struggle as parents. Like, how can we, it's like, basically what do we need to do to set that structure, right? Because like sometimes you need time for yourself and all those things. It's like there's so much to juggle.
So much. Oh my gosh, self-care is, I definitely preach self-care, right? What do you do is cut your cord according to your size. Don't overwork your schedule. Prioritize your child, prioritize yourself, prioritize your husband, your wife. You have to set time for all of those things, right? And sometimes you have to say no. Don't take on too many tasks because your children are your priority, right? I always tell, I told a family one time, I said, you should have stopped having kids at 2. And once you reach the second child, and she had 6 children. And she said, I wish I knew you sooner. And I said, because America is not like Africa. You're going to need time for yourself because you cannot fill somebody's cup if your cup is empty, right?
Yes.
You have to prioritize self-care and I cut out time. Like, for example, I cut out time in my schedule. That's why I can be on shows every time because I stopped doing my workshops. I love to do that, but I had to stop because school has started and my daughter needs me, right? And I have to be there. She's waiting for me to go ahead and for us to read tonight. And I have to be there for her as well. So you have to prioritize those things, to set that structure in your home.
Okay, thank you.
Before you go,
I also want to give an opportunity for last questions to you.
Yeah, that's very important. Thank you, Chairman.
Let's keep it short, others.
Ms. Williams, so before you go, and thank you for being here. Thank you for expanding on everything, right? Mm-hmm. Some of our parents or the parents, some of the challenges that they have is really, getting involved with the school system and the resources that are there, even if they have the time or a balanced schedule to get involved, right? Due to maybe some discomforting experiences, some roadblocks that are within the system that you're very much aware of. What do you say to those parents? How do they navigate those different challenges within the school system? What can they do?
They can definitely partner with your child's teacher, your child's school, because the things that your child needs, you don't have. And we always say the parents are the child's first and most important teacher. but the teachers have the resources that you need. So it's important that you communicate with the child's teacher, because just how you're parenting your child, those teachers are also parenting your child as well. They have the resources that can help you. So I will definitely say do that first. And then you start to take time. The more time you sit with your child and bond with them, you get to know their challenges and what have you. And you can be your child's advocate. A lot of parents are not their children's advocate. There are times where their kids need something, and guess what? They say no to the resources that are out there. And I've seen it so many times where children needed referrals, and we sat in the IEPs meeting, and I'm explaining to these parents like, hey, this is what this gonna, oh no, you're gonna say my child has, special needs, my child is crazy. You cannot be home to take care of that child, to support the child's development. You don't even know how to make a freaking poster. So why are you let the school do that? So you got to trust the school. They're not trying to say your child has, special needs or labeled. That's another thing, labeled your child. No, your child is not up to speed. And in order for them to get up to speed, they need this support. There's a question I would like to address if we have time. It's about the cultural values in the upbringing of children, if we have time.
If you can keep that at 1 minute, go ahead.
I'm going to try. So cultural values in the home is important. And I mentioned it earlier, like, you want to keep your tongue. I keep how I was raised in Liberia, I tune it up a little bit because it's important. You want to set that boundary. If you were one of those people who were disciplined, and I mean teaching, not just spanking, take away spanking. Spanking doesn't do nothing to children, but you want to teach them, explain things to them, right? When you're cooking the African food or whatever it is you're doing, include them in it. Praying, include them in it. Going to church, include them in that. Whatever it is that you are doing, that's how you keep that cultural values, and you let them know what it is in this house. This is who we are. I don't care if you're American or not. This is what I do in my house, right? And that's how you keep that cultural values. Don't let them say, oh, I'm American, because a lot of kids have put fear in their parents. That is not okay, because you guys did not set down the ground rules.
Okay, Melvin.
All right, so Melvin, over to you. Your question, if you have any.
I don't have any question for sis.
Denise, do you have any question?
Melvin is being entertained tonight.
Where does, if she doesn't mind disclosing, what school are you at? What district are you in? Yeah.
Oh, I don't live in Minnesota no more. When I was in Minnesota, I work at Wayzata Public School District. I work at Anoka Hennepin School District, and I work at Brooklyn Center Public School District.
Oh, I was about to say you weren't at your folks, but yeah, you mentioned our community. Okay.
Yeah, good resource.
Just joining us. You have one question. You have a question?
No, I don't have any question. I was watching and I'm enjoying you guys. I'm just jumping in just in case.
All right. So we're wrapping up already. We're wrapping up already. We have exhausted our time here. We like to say thank you to all of you who watched us. Wadi, thank you for being here. I think we have to do a part 2.
So before she go, Chairman, I think we have another caller. Let's just give this caller the opportunity.
My man, AB, no more. AB,
go ahead,
call in next week.
That's the community, man. Give the community a chance.
Make it a part 2, guys, because this topic is so important.
This is part 2
times that we're in.
Go ahead.
Yeah, okay, go ahead, caller. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much for allowing me the opportunity. I want to appreciate you guys for this topic because
why is it so low?
If we wrongly train our children, it will end up into a bad thing and make a bad society for everybody. But I want to know, do you have a special training for a boy or a girl, or do they have carry on the same routine?
Wait, talk about gender. He's trying to talk about gender. Yeah.
What's the question?
You have to be hard on the boy. Sometimes you be soft on the girl. So I want to know.
Oh man, we don't have time, but please let me explain this real quick if you don't mind. Is that okay?
Go ahead.
Oh.
Gender training norms.
Yeah,
Can you repeat the question? I didn't really get it.
Please, let me
so we are quick with it. Our panelists okay, yeah. I mean, that's what Ms. B is saying. Basically, gender. Okay, do you train boys differently versus girls? Do you have to be
Yeah.
passionate boys versus maybe go
Interesting
slow on the
question.
girls? Go ahead,
Okay.
go ahead, Miss Freddie.
This is what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna run through this real quick, right?
Yes,
Father's
sure.
role, mother's role. Father's role for their boys' children is to teach them how to be a man. The father's role for their for the female daughters is to teach them how to love. Two difference. So when you are teaching a child and when you're teaching your sons, right? You got to teach them when they're 12 or 13 years old. That's when your teaching starts because this is when they become men at 12 years old. So your role as a father to your son is to wait when you can start teaching them little stuff, but when they're 12, 13 years old, this is when you really put the smack down. But your girls, you are the ones teaching them how to love another man because that's what they're going to get involved with. The mothers, your role as a mother is to teach your son how to love because he's going to love a woman. He doesn't learn that from his father. He learns that from his mother. And the father role in his daughter's life is to teach her how to love because she's going to love another male. So the way you teach them,
the vibes alive.
Yeah.
On that note,
I really wish I had more time to really like
on
break
that note,
We will
on that note,
we'll schedule another time for you. We'll schedule.
on that
You are
note, like you said, we'll have a
awesome.
part two.
Yeah. For
We'll
you,
definitely have a
awesome.
part
for
two.
you.
And it's like you had another person with you.
follow that.
Miss B.
And this, we almost went 2 hours. It can continue.
Yeah.
But
I
here
know.
part two.
Oh,
Look, folks,
So
thanks for watching.
Chairman, before you just close though, right? Chairman, before you close, just one thing I just want to say,
Hold
right?
on, wait, you will not do this to me. You will not do this to me tonight.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
That
So,
that
if
labeling that you
want-
talking
if you
about,
want to
I wanted to
have
ask you a
us
question
discuss
about
a
it,
topic
Miss
you find
Welly.
interesting, would like to say put forth that topic, just put that in the comment section here. We'll get back to it. Wadi, thank you so much for being here. You are a fountain of knowledge. You will continue
Very
to grow if
resourceful.
we give you time, and you will be here for 10 million years, and you will not get tired. And we
Thank you
believe
guys
this
for
because
having
we
me.
can hear in you the
The
passion
passion.
you have
Yeah.
and the knowledge.
Seriously.
Passion,
Yeah.
And we thank you and we thank God for you, as you mentioned previously, that it took God to help you transition and put you on this path that you're on. We pray that He will continue to have you stay on this path and impact the many lives that you have and will continue to impact.
Amen.
But
Thank
we
you.
have to leave tonight. And folks, thanks for watching us. And we'll be back. We will actually have to beg you to be part of this panel because we need you. So we'll discuss that. But let's fall back backstage quickly to discuss a few things.
This
But
is
folks,
what walking in
thank you
purpose
for
looks
watching
like.
us. Thank you for watching us tonight. We'll be back here on Tuesday at 7 p.m. discussing another topic. Follow the page, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't done this already, and we'll see you on Tuesday. Have a good night.
Good night, guys.
Good night, guys.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Thank you, Well.